On Monday, the FBI approached the mayor and asked for his electronic devices. Two sources familiar with the matter say the mayor turned over 2 cell phones and an iPad, and later turned over additional electronic devices. The mayor issued a statement saying he's done nothing wrong. As a former member of law enforcement, I expect all members of my staff to follow the law and fully cooperate with any sort of investigation. Earlier this week, the mayor was asked about the criminal investigation.
I would be shocked if someone states that our campaign coordinated in illegal behavior.
We come to find out that Eric Adams had a total of 7 cell phones as the New York City mayor. I mean, right off the bat, I'm like, I don't even know how organized you are or lack of organization, but why would anybody have 7 cell phones? So this comes on the heels of the indictment where he was bribed by Turkish officials, where he was charged with accepting donations from foreign nationals, obviously completely illegal. We don't want foreign governments being taking over our elections or controlling our politicians. As well as, I think the worst thing is he defrauded taxpayers out of $10 million. And we'll go a little bit into those charges. But before we do, I think this is the main point before we get started. One of those cell phones, however, after they took Ed Caban's phone and went through his phone, they found out that Eric Adams had another number that they weren't aware of, because in the contacts, it was Eric Adams. And that phone was an NYPD issued phone. Why did he have an NYPD issued phone? To conceal, right? Nobody's going to really be able to get in that. It's highly encrypted, right? For personal protection reasons. So, and no one knew about that phone. He wasn't forthcoming with that phone. They found out about that phone upon taking former NYPD Police Commissioner Ed Caban's phone. Mal, what do you think about him having an NYPD issued phone as the mayor of New York City? Do you think this is something that's common, or is this just only in the Adams administration?
I've never heard of a mayor of like Bloomberg walking around with an NYPD smartphone. But the thing is, why would Bloomberg walk around with an NYPD phone? Because Bloomberg delegated the police department to the police commissioner. You know, he would have no real need to be in the to be in so much in the know of what's going on in the minutia of NYPD. And I think that point is a point that they're going to use to kind of finagle any conversation about this in court. They're going to say, hey, he's the mayor, he needs to get access to all this information, right? But if you think about it, if the mayor had really delegated a police commissioner to be a police commissioner and to be in charge of that, then why would he need a phone? Why would you need to know? The PC's got it, right? That's their job, right? But in this administration, Eric Adams is the true police commissioner, because all his PCs only have a certain amount of leg room to work with until he undermines them with his right hand man. Either it's Kaz or it's Phil Banks or it's Chell, you know. But what we're seeing is because the PC isn't really the PC is more of a kind of a figurehead nowadays, as opposed to being an autonomous commissioner of a department of the city, like in past administrations. So now Eric Adams uses this gray area to get himself his own cell phone and to kind of hide his shady fundraising, and meanwhile using the fact that he needs to know what's going on in a police department to get a department cell phone for himself. It's just unprecedented, you know. But there's been so much of that already in this department. Should this really surprise any of us?
I mean, you know, I always had 2 cell phones. I still have 2 cell phones. You know, for those of you that are listening on my main phone, I still have 2 cell phones. But you know, I I hate having two cell phones. I think it's inefficient. It's just sometimes you want to separate business from actual life, right? Like you don't want to be taking calls for solely related to your business outside of your life. And, you want to be able to detach from that, right? You don't want to see it in your face. You don't want to see what messages you're getting sometimes. You're on vacation. So I understand having two phones. Eric Adams had 7. So to interact with the NYPD as the mayor of New York City, I could see you having Eric Adams' cell phone and the mayor's phone to conduct city business. I can't. Does he have a cell phone for sanitation? Does he have a separate cell phone for FDNY? Does he have a separate cell phone for every other agency, all the hundreds of other? No, obviously not. He doesn't, right? So, I mean, you see a clear pattern of deception, not only with Eric Adams, but everyone surrounded by Eric Adams. Chris Arnold brings up a point that I don't know if you guys remember. And what he says is and he's talking about NYPD, he's talking about One Police Plaza, actually wanted to install technology that detected cell phones after you were asked to hand it over before entering meetings. If that's not a red flag. So they wanted you to come into meetings, hand your cell phone over so that you couldn't record. Nobody could ever hear what was ever said in those meetings. It can never be brought up in a court of law again. This is from top officials in the NYPD. I mean, right then and there, they should be removed out of office. Just right then and there. We've heard time and time again how TARU, which is the NYPD's Technical Assistance Response Unit, was used to sweep executive offices, high-level mayor-appointed NYPD officials' office for bugs. Like, it's the Raven Night. Like, One Police Plaza is the Raven Night Club where John Gotti, Sammy the Bull, and everybody else were hanging out. Why would you care if anybody's listening, if you weren't saying it? Why would you go to such great lengths? And, rumors for months were there were high-level NYPD executives and some low-level members of the NYPD also involved in soliciting straw donors, part of these straw donor schemes. And I think if if there was ever a deep dive into that case, it's closed now, right? The Trump administration said it's political without ever looking at any of the evidence, right? We're just going to say it's political, but we're not going to look at the evidence so that we could always just say, hey, we didn't look at the evidence, so it's gone. But the level of deception can't be understated. So we remember that his Brianna Suggs' home was raided, right? Remember that. So this is also part of some of the documents that were released. So it doesn't say the name. It just says the Adams staffer agreed to speak with the FBI agents and falsely denied the criminal conduct of herself and Adams, among others. At one point during her voluntary interview, the Adams staffer excused herself to the bathroom and while there, deleted the encrypted messaging application she had used to communicate with Adams, the promoter, the Turkish official, the airline manager, and others. So that to me is tampering with evidence charge right on the staffer. Why would she be so concerned if nothing was done that was wrong? I mean, obviously it's fine now because, these are just allegations. These are just allegations from the FBI at this point because they haven't went nowhere. But when you look at the web of deceit and the web of lies, anyone sitting here saying that this was a political hit job, I'm just saying you definitely, if you're not a cop, you definitely did the right thing. If you're not a detective, if you're not in any investigative form, you did the right thing. If you're in an investigative body, or even if you just have an analytical mind, or you could perceive things properly in life, you see a web of criminality here. To me, right then and there, that is a tampering with evidence charge. Obviously, that's going to go, it's gone, right? The case is gone. But what do you think about going into the bathroom during her voluntary interview and deleting the app so nervous she had to delete the app.
I think that's like that's stuff you see in movies, you know. Like I said, I spent a lot of time looking at this last night, and one of the reasons why I dived into it was to try and find out like why he moved like that. And the way he moved seemed like somebody who's like who's been through this, who knows what's going on. And to me, it seems like a lot of the allegations they seem like a repeat of the allegations that were against the senior senators that were around Adams when he was in the state senate and the aqueduct scandal was going on.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Robert Capers, U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New York. Today, just a few moments ago, Chief Judge Dora Irizarry sentenced former state senator and former Senate Democratic leader John Sampson to 60 months incarceration, that's 5 years, on the 3 counts of conviction to run concurrent. And we thank her for her kind consideration and the sentence that she imposed. We believe that this is a significant event in our investigation and prosecution of John Sampson for the various abuses of the public trust that he engaged in over a course of years. As you well know, as you heard at trial and was well established in all of our pleadings, Mr. Sampson was an attorney in long standing and a former state senator who abused essentially every position that he had of trust for his own good.
And you know, a lot of the allegations are the same. They include like travel act bribery, wire fraud, mail fraud, and one of those allegations was also of campaign fraud, and that just like this, that there was an influence. It was using campaign donations for influence peddling, and that Adams himself was receiving money from AEG, one of the groups that were trying to get the aqueduct casino at the aqueduct. So when I hear this, it's like they kind of knew they kind of knew the game and were trying to get away. And it looks like Adams in a lot of ways was kind of escaped justice back in the 2010s, because you look at all the names that were related to that case, like Sheldon Silver, John Sampson, Malcolm Smith, even Jeff Klein, you know, who didn't go to jail or anything, but he had a ethics investigation on him as well. But those other names I mentioned went to jail, you know, and they went to jail for wire fraud, corruption, extortion, travel act bribery. And travel act bribery is something I'll come back to. But again, the point I'm trying to make here is that Adams has been through this, and his people and himself moved like they knew how to play the game and knew how to. The fact that they were using Signal again is another sign that they kind of knew the game and knew how to worm their way out of a situation, like she clearly was trying to do here.
Yeah. So moral of the story is I'm going to be downloading Signal for our anonymous tips. We're going to give you a number for our anonymous tip line through the Signal app. So you could erase it. We'll erase it. We'll keep it on a 24-hour cycle. So I think this is another point. I think this was another point that really stood out to me. And I think you're 100% right, Marlon. I think Andrew Yang nailed them at the debate when they were running head-to-head against Mayor. And I think what he said Eric Adams has the unusual trifecta of being investigated by federal, local, and state authorities. And he said, why would we expect any different as a New York City mayor? And he turned out to be 100% right. That's exactly what's going on throughout his entire administration.
Yeah. And you know what? Just to hit on that point about this not being political. Again, after all these scandals happened in the mid-teens, in the early teens, around 2010, by 2013, the Marlon Commission had started. And the Marlon Commission was because there was just so many scandals tied to the state Senate, right? And Pret Bharara, who was a Democrat, right, and has a very illustrious career of taking down corruption and like the mafia. He was looking into that, and he even looked into the Cuomo's attempts to kind of stonewall the commission, So the point I'm trying to make here is that this isn't political. Adams was a almost a protege of John Sampson, and John Sampson went to jail for 5 years. And John Sampson, during that case, John Sampson diverted he gave Eric Adams was basically the point man of it. And John Sampson went to jail for all these similar allegations that Eric Adams is now facing. So he kind of knew the game.
Yeah, and here's another point. Here's another point that just shows how deep the deception was, right? On November 6th, 2023, FBI agents executed a search warrant for electronic devices used by Eric Adams. Although Adams was carrying several electronic devices, including 2 cell phones, he was not carrying his personal cell phone, which is the device he used to communicate about conduct described in his indictment. When Adams produced his personal cell phone the next day in response to a subpoena, it was locked, such that a device requires a password to open. Adams claimed that after he learned about the investigation into his conduct, he changed the password on November 5th, 2024, which is the day before they come and get his phone. So he learns about it. He decides to leave the phone home and changes the password. And he increased the complexity of his password from 4 digits to 6. Adams had done this, he claimed, to prevent members from his staff of inadvertently or intentionally deleting the contents of his phone. Because according to Adams, he wished to preserve the contents of his phone due to the investigation. But Adams further claimed he had forgotten the password he had just set, and thus was unable to provide the FBI with the password that would unlock the phone. So day before, so sounds like me, he's fully aware they're coming for his stuff. He changes his password from 4 to 6 digits in an effort to help them. He just wants to preserve everything, right? Because he's innocent, right? I didn't do anything. I want to preserve all this for you guys. And I changed it to make sure that none of my staff went in there and deleted anything, because I want you to conduct a proper investigation. But I forgot what it was. Totally forgot. Yeah, this is all totally normal, right? Totally normal.
How thoughtful of him, Yeah.
And how well thought out that defense is, right?
Yeah.
Is that not a great defense? I mean, no, I wanted to help. I wasn't deleting anything. I wanted to help you guys. I was trying to preserve it, but I forgot it.
Yeah. All that crack and weed in the back of the car, I wasn't transporting it. I was bringing it to you guys to help you out in this investigation.
Yeah, no, I was just bringing. You ever? I got the gun, but I was just driving to the precinct with it to drop it off.
Yeah.
And then here you guys are. I was just bringing it to the precinct.
Yeah.
So I mean, clear, utter deception on the part of New York City mayor.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.